Here we are at Holy Trinity Church, Kameruka. The church was one of the very first things that Robert Tooth had built here. It's not, in fact, part of the estate, because it is, in fact, a public place of worship, so it belongs to the Anglican Church. But Robert, who was, in fact, a very religious man, as was obviously more popular in those days than it probably is today, the first thing he wanted to establish was a congregation for the Church of England. And so hence this church was put up the top of the hill here, which really overlooks the whole property. He donated the land that the church sits on and also the land that the cemetery is on to the Anglican Church of England. So it's, as I say, it's owned by the Church of England, so it stands here as a normal Anglican church. Not used anything like to the degree that it would have been in those early days. In fact, I think you got into a fair bit of trouble if you didn't attend Matins or Holy Communion on a Sunday, despite having to milk the cows and everything else as well. So Sundays were a pretty busy day, I would think. It's quite a famous little church in so much that its architect is a very well-known New South Wales architect by the name of Edmund Blackett. He was responsible for some very much grander things around the state. Bathurst Cathedral, the Great Hall, Sydney University, St Andrew's Cathedral in Sydney. So they were huge works by Blackett. It's the classic English country church, slate roof. It's Welsh slate from the UK. And it would sit about, it sits a little bit over 100 people if you really crush everybody in for a wedding or some such like. The cemetery is quite interesting because it's a very early cemetery. I think the thing that really sticks out when you visit it are the number of children's graves and also women who died in childbirth, almost unheard of today. Whereas in those days they had their children at home. The midwife probably had to come quite a long way. Doctors were the same, slow travel and horses and things like that. And there were an awful lot of women succumbed and children as well. Some of the plaques are certainly worth a mention. This first one here, which is to Henry Erasmus Wren, who we believe was in fact a relation to the famous Christopher Wren of St Paul's Cathedral in London fame, apparently. But he was very significant as far as Kameruka was concerned, being an early manager. Early agriculture in Australia was a bit of a hit and miss affair. I mean, it was a completely different continent to wherever European man had endeavoured to go farming before. But he certainly was responsible for the success agriculturally of Kameruka, there's no doubt about that. He was accidentally killed by falling off a horse. Here we have rather a fine brass plaque to Frederick Tooth, who was Robert's uncle, in fact. And he was one of those Tooths that were in the Twofold Bay Pastoral Company before Robert really started to develop the place as we see it today. What's quite interesting, you can see he came from Swift's Park, Cranbrook, Kent. And that's where the Kentish names were very much brought out here as part of the place. Not just here, but also the other parts of the country that the Tooths were involved in. And the large house on Darling Point in Sydney, which still stands, called Swift's. Of course, that's where the famous boys' school in Sydney, Cranbrook, comes from, because Robert was instrumental in building that as well. And of course calling it Cranbrook after the village in Kent. And this plaque is probably the most important one in here, to Robert himself and the three sons, headed with the family crest, and then saying, "To the glory of God and in loving memory of Robert Lucas Tooth, 1st Baronet of Home Lacey, Herefordshire, England, and of Kameruka, New South Wales, Australia, born the 7th of December 1844 and died the 19th of February 1915. Also of his three sons, Selwyn Lucas Tooth, Captain 3rd Battalion of the Lancashire Fusiliers, born the 19th of March 1879 and killed in action the 20th of October 1914 at Armentières in France. And then Douglas Keith Lucas Tooth, who was captain of the 9th Lancers, DSO, born the 10th of October 1880 and died of wounds on the 14th of September 1914. Received in the Battle of the Aisne in France on the 13th of September of that year. And then last, Archibald Leonard Lucas Tooth, who was the 2nd Baronet, He survived his father. He was a major in the Honourable Artillery Company, born June the 3rd, 1884, and died the 12th of July, 1918, at Aubigny, France. Poor lads, they didn't live long to experience much more in life, really.